All right, back at it with the spooky edition of Boston has entered the chat. Look, Jon Lyons, welcome back. Friend of the program. You come and talk all sports with us. Usually it's Patriots. Today, we are getting into some Celtics conversation because, look, friend, I need somebody to help level the playing field here. Travis is usually riding high, a little negative, got a lot of things to say about the Celtics, made some backhanded apologies yesterday. Adam
Trade fire Joe Mazzulla, sit Jason Tatum.
Yeah, along those lines. Adam has been a notch more positive, but Jon Lyons, what do you make of this team and their rematch against the 76ers for this NBA Cup? Because they only lost by 1 point opening up the season. They have a flashy win versus the Cavs. Are they pulling on enough momentum to be able to make a statement versus the 76ers?
Well, Kasey, it feels like they're in a much better place than if you had me on at this time last week, because I would have been pretty down on them, especially
would you have
those
been a
first
Travis or an Adam?
I would have been whichever one was the most negative on that day after
you would be
Friday's
a Travis, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
probably.
good.
So, I mean, and opening night, too, I mean, and not to go all the way back, but you have a 13-point lead in the fourth quarter. Like, at home, that's a game you got to win. And then the Knicks, okay, you were a little overmatched there. I get it. And then Detroit, maybe a little overmatched. I think that's a team that maybe around here people don't notice as much because they've been bad for a while, but there's a lot of good pieces there. So to get the win in New Orleans, and then especially that win against the Cavaliers, I thought was really encouraging, because when you look at this early season schedule, it wasn't just the game against the Cavs or the Knicks. Now you're on the road tonight in Philly, and then tomorrow you're going to play a Houston Rockets team that on opening night started the tallest lineup in NBA history, and the Celtics have had some rebounding issues. So getting that Cleveland win, I think, was really important. And if then they can take care of business tonight and go to 3-3, even if they don't beat Houston, but they're 3-4 through their first 7, which again included, the Knicks, the Cavs, the Rockets, I think you can walk away with that feeling at least okay about kind of where they're at.
So tonight does tip off the beginning of the NBA Cup, which, of course, these games are scattered, over the next couple of months, I think it is at this point. But in Philadelphia, of course, group play, for anyone who doesn't follow this stuff, Celtics are in one of 6 groups. They're with the Nets, the Pistons, the Magic, the Sixers. Philadelphia at 4-0, by the way, to begin the year, because they did steal that one against the C's opening night, are considered the favorites in this group. Personally, I don't give a crap about the NBA Cup. This is just another Adam Silver creation to make games more interesting in the regular season that don't need to be made more interesting. So that isn't a thing for me. But for people that, I don't know, want to get revved up about it, and I think some players do, I don't know if Celtics do, but some players do. Boston's not hanging a banner for this thing in this alternate universe where they win an NBA Cup. But I think the bigger question is, in this first game, what do they take from opening night, where you allow Tyrese Maxey 40 points, VJ Edgecombe in his NBA debut 34 points, a shell of Joel Embiid on the other side. He's played a little bit better more recently. What do you take from that first game into this one to try and have a different outcome?
Yeah, and Adam, if I had to put a percentage on how much I care about the NBA Cup, it would be less than 0. So I'm pretty much with you right there. And look, as far as this game goes, you brought up Joel Embiid, and he's an interesting piece here to me, because opening night, he looked like a ghost. Didn't play in the fourth quarter, had 4 points overall. And then you look at his last couple games, he seems like he's suddenly back on track. I mean, the other night he had 25, 7, and 5 in 23 minutes. And I know he's still on a minutes restriction. We'll see how much he plays, but they've had, a few days off here. So I think he could actually have an impact in this game. VJ Edgecombe is averaging 23 points per game. And oh, by the way, the guy who is leading the NBA in points per game is Tyrese Maxey. So the Celtics defense, I think, is going to have its hands full. And I think 2 things from opening night, if they can be, quote unquote, better at tonight. One would be they got to hit more threes. I mean, they shot 25% from 3 on opening night. And also, can their fast break defense be better? I mean, there was a lot of possessions in that opening night game, whether it was Maxey, whether it was Edgecombe, that they just had no resistance going up and down the floor. So that's something that, Philly is 5th in second chance points. They had 21 fast break points on opening night. Can the Celtics be better in some of those margin areas? Because I think if they had been, they would have won on opening night, and it wouldn't have come down to the last possession either way.
Yeah, well, at least we've seen growth, I want to say, at least in the last 2 games for one. You mentioned the threes. We saw more threes land versus the Cavaliers. And then on top of that,
when you take 100.
and then we saw better play, better consistency, and holding up their end of the bargain when it came to the fourth quarter, more importantly, dominating in the second and the fourth quarter. What do you need to see out of this team, or what do they need to continue to build off of? Because there were some players that were very much non-existent in the first matchup, but Josh Minott showed off versus the Cavs. So is there anyone on your list that's like, hey, if this guy comes in and plays, this team can not just, I don't know, pull away with a victory by a narrow margin, but actually show the 76ers they can compete?
Yeah, so look, you're on the road in Philly. Like, Jaylen Brown is going to have a good game. You want Derek White to start shooting the ball better than he's been shooting. By the way, Derek White leading the NBA in three-point attempts per game. So it'd be nice if some of those went down as well. But Kasey, you brought up Josh Minott, and I think that's an interesting guy because on opening night, and just take the numbers out of it, watching him play looked a little lost out there.
14 minutes, 2 rebounds, 2 points.
Exactly. So not only were the numbers not good, but he just looked kind of lost out there, especially on the defensive end. And we've seen him over the past few games get more comfortable, get better. And look, he's a role player. He's not going to be some starter level guy all year long. But if he can kind of give you similar to what you got in the Cavs game from him, I think that would be a huge boost compared to what you got opening night. Even Luka Garza has looked a little bit more comfortable over the past game or so. So maybe that's encouraging because their rebounding numbers, which were atrocious against the Knicks and not much better against the Pistons, have gotten better. They were better against the Cavs, and they actually out-rebounded Philly in that opening night game by 2. So can you do well on the boards? But yeah, Minott's an interesting one. Jaylen Brown, Derek White. I think if you can get contributions out of those guys, you'll be in good shape. Because if Embiid's going to be a much better player than you saw on opening night, you're going to have fewer opportunities inside, and you're going to have to knock down some of those outside shots.
Look, if you guys want Josh Minott talk, Ante Campbell and I did a lot of Josh Minott talk on Hold My Banner, which is available to you on the Nesson YouTube page.
Shameless
Comes your way, Nesson Nation. It's not shameless at all. Thursdays, 1 p.m. Check it out because there was, Minott, diamond in the rough. This is your new, Brad Stevens, Derek White find. But going back to that Cavs game and that, emphatic 20-point win that I think surprised a lot of people, obviously. The 2 team takeaways for me, because for a singular player, it probably is Minott, but the 2 team takeaways for me for that game were out-rebounding a team that has Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and also the bench scoring. It was only, I think, 18 points on the other side for the Cavs bench, 45 for Boston, including Sam Hauser's 21, which was just excellent. So going forward here, in the short term anyway, which one of those facets to you is more important to this team's success?
I feel like it's going to be the bench scoring because I think defensively this team is going to have a ceiling, right? With no Porzingis, no Horford, no Cornette, no Holiday. We go down the list. It's a good team that they just is not there anymore. But I think if you can get, and it's not just Hauser, who was great in that first quarter and hit some big shots later in the game, but if Anthony Simons, a guy who as a starter in Portland was a 20-point per game player, can you get scoring off the bench from him when he's coming off the bench? I think that is where the Celtics can have an edge over some of these other teams. Because you look at the starting 5, for the last 2 years, the Celtics had the best starting 5 in the NBA. Them in Oklahoma City, I guess you could debate. Now, that's not the case, right? You still have the All-NBA player in Jaylen Brown, but your starting 5 is not what it was. So can you win on the margins? Can you win on a night that Hauser comes off the bench in the first quarter and starts hitting a bunch of threes? Can you win on a night where Anthony Simons is playing really well? Even Hugo Gonzalez, can you win on a night where he's giving you a bunch of energy and effort and playing really well? So I think, can you win on those margins, including, and look, they did this at home against the Cavaliers. Can some of these guys do that on the road? Like, we know Sam Hauser, he's been here a while. He can do it on the road. We don't maybe know about Simons. And even Josh Minott, we'll see if he's in the starting lineup or not. Can he do that on the road? We'll have to see. Really, tonight's going to be a nice early test for that. Because, again, if you win this game tonight and you're 3-3, regardless of what happens against Houston, all of a sudden maybe you're feeling better about your bench. You're feeling better about what you're doing on the margins. Your early rebounding woes haven't hurt you quite as much as maybe it looked like they were going to at this time last week. So I think to answer your question, it's the bench scoring going forward because I think that's an area where they can beat a lot of teams on the margins.
All right, a quick 2-parter before we get out here. For one, do you trust this defense to step up and be able to better handle Maxey and Edgecombe? And then for 2, your prediction of how this plays out.
So I think the defense will be better than it was on opening night. Again, I talked about all the 21, I think, fast break points and just some of the easy layups that those guards had from Philly. I think they'll be better than they were on opening night. And I do think the Celtics are going to win this game. I think they're going to go down there, and I think Embiid is going to be better, but I think the Celtics are going to be better than what you saw on opening night. I think that Cleveland win, and I know momentum might be overrated in pro sports, but for a team without Tatum and without all those guys that I mentioned earlier, to win a game against a good team like Cleveland, I think that does do a lot for their confidence heading into tonight's game. So if you care about the NBA Cup, unlike I do, and unlike Adam does, you'll be happy that they'll win an NBA Cup tonight. I'll just be happy that they beat the 76ers.
Yeah, again, I don't care about the NBA Cup and like getting out of group play and taking you through the whatever.
Yeah, what does it take?
Oklahoma
6 months?
City,
Like,
I think it ends in like December. Genuinely, I think that's when it is because it's so staggered. But here's where it does matter, fans. It's a regular season game that counts towards your schedule. It's not like this, separate tournament or whatever that's no.
Yeah, no counter.
Nobody cares that Oklahoma City, the eventual NBA champion, got curb stomped by Milwaukee last year in the NBA Cup final. Who gives a singular damn? Nobody. Nobody. We're about championships here, not NBA Cup championships here.
Yeah.
But yeah, go out and get this win, get yourselves back to 500. That's the kind of thing that matters for a team that, unlike Travis, I do not want to see tank. So go out, be a playoff team, and tread water until Jason Tatum inevitably comes back.
Tread water. We got a lot of different plans going on, but that only means that we have to have you back to talk more C's. Jon, thank you so much for taking the time to come and hop on and hang out with your friends here in Boston has entered the chat. I'm sure we'll see you very, 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 very soon. Have a safe and exciting Halloween hiding away in Syracuse. Sorry, I gave your spot away.
Yeah, you still got to find them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure being on.